Welcome to the WEInvested podcast, where we teach you how to save and make more cash. Today on the WEInvested podcast, we have here with us Myoshia Boykin-Anderson, and she is an IT consultant, the founder, and the CEO of AndTech Solutions. Miss Myoshia, how are you doing today?
I am awesome. Thank you so much for having me today.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for taking time out your busy schedule to join us. And before we jump right into it, would you mind just letting the people know where they can find you on social media and anywhere else on the internet?
Sure, sure. So, all of my handles for the most part is my name. So, on Facebook, I am Myoshia Boykin-Anderson. My company is AndTech Solutions. So, we do have our business page there. I also have a private Facebook group. I would love to invite your audience to join us. The name of the group is Business Empowerment Through Technology. So, we focus on empowering businesses through leveraging the power of technology. So, business empowerment through technology, BETT is the acronyms, and we generally say, are can is there a better way for me to do this? You bet. Can technology help me in my business? You bet. you know, so that's the premise around the private Facebook group. I am Myoshia. I am actually Miss Myoshia on Instagram. I am Myoshia Boykin-Anderson on LinkedIn, and I am AndTech Solutions and Myoshia Boykin-Anderson on Twitter.
Yes, ma'am. That's awesome. So let's jump right into it. So, just kind of in the introduction here, I see that you're the founder and the CEO of AndTech Solutions. So, in your own words, what is AndTech Solutions?
AndTech Solutions is an IT consulting and strategy company. We specialize in helping businesses, especially entrepreneurs and those businesses that are well established for the most part, but we help them leverage the power of technology. We generally like to say that we help them work smarter and not harder. So we spend a lot of time developing custom solutions that would allow that to happen, that would allow entrepreneurs to buy back some of their time. So, everything IT, everything technology, and really the strategy that's behind that. So, that's who we are and what we do. We've been in business for almost 12 years now for
Wow.
AndTech Solutions. I've been an entrepreneur for 22 years. This is my second company. I grew the first company to multiple six figures from 1998 until about 2008. And I took a year off, really consumed all of the lessons learned from that first business, and I launched AndTech Solutions in January of 2009.
That's awesome. That's a very rich history that you have in business. So, when you took that year off, did that give you a chance to kind of see the industry and understand business from a different perspective than when you
It
were
actually
actually operating?
it actually did. Yes, it did. What it allowed me to do when I first started my business, first of all, being a woman in tech and an African American woman in tech is not a common occurrence. So there were a lot of roadblocks that I hit in the first business. And I really tried to take all of those experiences, everything I had learned, and I am self-taught. I have not been to college, but I have a passion for technology and solving problems and analyzing issues. So I really took that year to see how I was going to come back bigger and stronger because I knew that entrepreneurship was the route for me. It was, I loved having my first business. I loved all of the growing pains that came along with it. And I knew that I wanted to do it differently, but still stay in that tech space. My first business was an IT consulting company as well. So yeah, it did. It allowed me to see the industry. It allowed me to take a step back and see myself as well, right? To be able to see where I needed to grow, where my mindset needed to grow, because a lot of this thing is mindset. I don't care what industry you're in, what business you're starting, it's all about mindset. So yeah, it was a really really good year for me. I had a lot of support from my family, and we launched AndTech Solutions in January of 2009.
That's awesome. So, I heard you kind of mention your background a little bit, but if you wouldn't mind letting the people know how you actually got started in tech and how that interest first formed.
Yeah, so it actually started in high school. So, as I mentioned, I am a native Houstonian. I was born and raised in an area of Houston called Third Ward. So we like to call it Third Ward, Texas, because we are little. We are our own space in the Houston area. But I grew up in Third Ward, and in high school, I took my first computer class. It was my sophomore year. Actually, it was my junior year, I believe. But I took my first computer class, and it wowed me. It literally wowed me. And I believe a big part of my passion for technology is because it allows me to solve problems. At that time, I was going through a lot in my life. My upbringing wasn't the best, and growing up in inner city, it was truly the hood. But growing up in Third Ward wasn't the best for me. So technology actually ended up becoming like an outlet for me. It was my way of being able to solve something. There was so much in my life as a young girl that I couldn't control, that I couldn't fix, right? But technology allowed me to see a problem and to know that I had the ability to fix it and solve it. So that's how it started. I joined the co op program. So some of the local businesses, actually the corporations in the Houston area, partnered with the Houston Independent School District, where they offered jobs to high school students, right? So I went to school half a day and I worked in corporate America half a day. And that's where the seed started being watered. I remember being in the office at a very young age with all of these adults, all of these grown-ups working, right? And I remember being there and hearing the women around me ask each other, "Hey, Julie, do you know how to do that?" And I would literally slump in my cubicle, figure the problem out, and then jump up and say, "Miss Johnson, I know how to do it," right? And that's how it all started. I got started in a support role and really being able to analyze issues, come up with solutions, um, all in that tech space. So that's how the story started. And for all intents and purposes, the rest is history, actually. It's been a journey, an amazing journey since then. And I'm super, super excited about the journey that's behind me, but also everything that lies ahead of me.
Yes, ma'am. That's awesome. And so I heard you kind of mention that you like tech because of the problem solving aspect of it. And so, I mean, I guess I'm putting together the pieces here, but being an entrepreneur, you're also a problem solver. So when did you kind of get that business bug to know, okay, I want to have my own business, I want to do my own thing?
I'll tell you, it wasn't as serendipitous as some people would say. I actually, I typically say that I didn't find entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship found me, right? I was working a job. I actually thought it was the perfect job for me. I was a single mom raising my daughter. She was 5 at the time. And I'm working my job and really loving it. It was still in the tech space. It was for a legal integration company where we um, perform system implementations for law firms in the Gulf Coast region. And one day, my boss came into the office and she said, we've decided to close the office. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. It really did. I was a young mother, single parent, living paycheck to paycheck. And now that was threatened, right? So She said we were going to close the office. And I originally thought, well, when companies close, it usually takes them a while to close, right? And she said, today, we're closing today. It
Wow.
literally knocked me off my feet. I was devastated. And I knew in that moment, I knew immediately that I never wanted anyone else to have that control over me again. And that's when the entrepreneurial bug was born. Now, I didn't start my business immediately. It took 9 months, literally, to birth what was then known as Boykin Business Solutions. That was my first company. So it took 9 months, but at that moment, I determined that was what I was going to do. And immediately in that moment, even while she asked me to help her pack up the office, I knew in that moment that I was going to make a plan to start my own business. My first order of business was to go out and find another job because I had this little one that I had to take care of, right? But I started the planning at that moment, and it took 9 months. But I started my first business. This they closed the office in February of 98. Yes, in February of 98. And I started my business actually on Friday the 13th, November 13th. So this past Friday the 13th was very special to me because it was my 22nd anniversary, but it also fell on a Friday, Friday the 13th.
Man, that's so cool. And so kind of just going back to your current company, which is AndTech Solutions, I think, before we kind of dive into that, I think that's an interesting name in itself. How do you remember how you came up with that, with the name of your company?
Yes, so it's a play on words and it's double-sided, right? So I met my husband in 2008, and when I spoke about, that support system that I had, he played a big role in that. So my new last name was Anderson. So that's partly where the and came from. But also from a business perspective, when I was working on my motto and my tagline and things like that, I often would come to the same, point in the sentence where we provide all of these solutions and technology. So that's where and tech came from. So, yep, and tech solutions.
I like that name. So, what are some ways that your clients have used your custom technology solutions to save time and money?
Um, our solutions actually run the entire gamut of business size to business industry and all of that. So, a couple of examples. One of my clients is an actual hair salon. So we actually, she was at a point where her business was growing and she needed support at the front of her salon, right? She had just started hiring new hairstylists, and she needed a quick way to get clients in, get them checked in, and the whole process around that. So we actually developed a kiosk for her where her clients would come in, they would check in on the kiosk. They were able to select the service or confirm the service that they are getting today. It showed up on the screen. They were able to update any of their contact information. And once they checked in, it sent a text message to the stylist in the back to say, your 3 o'clock appointment is here. And what it also did was while it seemed like a really cool check-in process for a hair salon, it was actually collecting data, which meant that the owner could send out automatic birthday cards. She could send out automatic cards saying, hey, it's been 6 weeks since your last relaxer, and all of that. So we developed that custom solution for her. We have larger organizations, law firms, where we have created solutions that would allow them to, reduce a 12-step process. And we rolled that whole 12-step process into a button plopped it on their toolbar, and provided a one-touch solution for them. And we do that quite a lot. We look at workflows, we look at processes, and we see where the areas of improvement are, and we develop technical solutions around that. And then there are some companies, we have some very large corporate clients because we still serve corporate America, where we are doing, just all out system implementations for them across the whole life cycle of their acquisition projects or any of that. So our services and the people that we serve really span a whole, a wide variety.
Yes, ma'am. But it seems like the common denominator and all of that is that you are making the business owners' lives a lot easier, and you're saving them time and money by streamlining processes or, creating CRM systems for them up front, to make it easier for clients to check in and to follow up with clients. So I think that's awesome. But
Wes, I'm going to have to hire you. You stated that perfectly.
yes,
It's
ma'am.
really good, but yeah, and that's what it's about. As a business owner, our time is our money, right?
Right.
And being able to um, help organizations and companies, help them work smarter, help them buy back their time, because in order for businesses to grow, the way you grow is to do more of what works for you. And the only way to do that is to have systems in place, is to have solutions in place that allow you to do more of what's working and what's generating revenue for you. So it reduces time, it increases revenue, it increases productivity and efficiency for your team. Because as a business owner, when my team is successful, I'm successful.
Exactly. Yes, ma'am. And so, just being an African American woman in a field like tech, which is, mainly dominated by white males, and you're solving like huge problems. You're bringing solutions to huge problems here. So, like, what are some of the things that you had to overcome? Like, what are some barriers or things that you had to overcome while trying to get into the tech industry and become a force?
Actually, because I am a force, and I'm so very grateful for that, to be able to stand in this position every single day. But as you can imagine, I've had a lot of doors closed. I've had um, times when there was not a table, a seat at the table for me, right? So being able to make sure that in all that I do it with the spirit of excellence, right? And that was most important for me, to make sure that when I showed up as the very best version of myself. I knew that I had to be more. I had to be, uh, for lack of a better term, I had to be more better. I really
Right.
had to be more better. I had to make sure that my game was so sharp, that I was so on top of things, because I wanted to prevent every barrier that society tried to place in front of me, right? So I made sure that I knew my stuff. I made sure that I was well read and well versed, and that I learned something new every single day. And to this day, and we've grown our business to um, a multi seven figure business. We are really operating in that space now, for which we are truly grateful. But even to this day, I learn something new every day. And I teach my team and everyone that's on staff for me to learn something new every day. And it doesn't even just have to be in business, it's in life general. Make sure that you are better today than you were yesterday. It's a mantra that I've had, that I feel has truly helped me get to where I am today. I'll also say that I am unapologetically a Christian. And I know that the reason that I am able to stand and be and do everything that I do today is because I serve a God who loves me, who provides for me, who protects me, who directs my path, who leads me. So I dare not say that this was all Myoshia, right? It wasn't me at all, if you will. It's truly the guidance and the vision that God has helped me to stand in and walk in.
That's awesome. So, would you say that your upbringing in Third Ward, Houston, Texas, helped to kind of create some of that ambition and that mindset for excellence that you have today?
Well, I'll tell you, it's interesting because I didn't necessarily have role models growing up. And I'll tell you something very interesting that really proves that so much of life, and I say this to especially young people, especially the millennials out there today, that it doesn't matter where you come from. We get to write our own story. So growing up in Third Ward, it was rough. And I'll tell you, um, Third Ward got a lot of publicity this year. I grew up with George Floyd. We went to the same schools from elementary all the way to high school.
Wow.
And I haven't said that a lot to people, but this hit differently. It hit differently. It hit close to home. There's a lot of ill out there, and there are a lot of people who look like me, boys and girls, men and women who look like me, who've been told that they can't, who've been told that they will never, who've been told that they shouldn't, and who've been, told, how dare you, or you have the nerve, right? But I do. I do have the nerve. I have the nerve to stand up, to not let society depict who I am and where I go and how far I can reach. I think big and I dream big, and that helps me perform big, right? So I said all of that to say that my upbringing sparked the drive because I determined early what I did not want my life to be. And I didn't know where I was going, but I knew what I did not want. I knew what I didn't want for myself. I knew what I didn't want for my daughter. So while I didn't necessarily know how the the drawing would be painted, how the picture would be writ, how the story would be told, I didn't necessarily know all of that, but I knew that there had to be something better. And that's how I went about life. I went out there to get it, to literally get it, despite everything, in spite of everything. I went out there to get it. And I still have that same drive, that same tenacity. And I want to be able to live out loud in front of those who are disenfranchised so that they see what is possible, right? That they see that I'm not just telling you something that I've read in a book. I've been there. I've walked the same streets. I've gone to the same schools. I've walked the same hallways. So I know almost better than anybody else. I know the challenges that you face every single day. But I also know what is possible, that those challenges don't have to define you, that you can be and do and go wherever your mind can take you. And that brings me back to my statement earlier. So much of this journey, and not just for me, but for entrepreneurs that I talk to across the board, it the success is here. And all we have to do is go out there and take action and know that it's not going to fall in our laps, right? That you have to go out there and you have to do it. You have to work for it. But the reward is freaking phenomenal, right? It is truly, truly amazing.
Man, and I'm glad we're getting to hear this positive energy over the air right now. I'm loving this conversation, and just to kind of, um, you know, with you being a successful African American woman running a 7-figure business, how do you stay so productive? Like, what does a day look like for you?
Crazy. um, I'll say, my days are they're, as much as I try to, um, my days never look the same. They literally never look the same. I wake up prepared for whatever happens. Now, having said that, I don't live my life haphazardly because I'm very intentional and I'm very strategic about everything that I do. But I allow for whatever's going to happen. Like I'm waking up like, okay, Jesus, what we doing today, right?
Right.
So my days typically, um I'm either waking up super early or going to bed really late because, um, as you can imagine, in technology, I have folks that work for me that are offshore. So I'm either having a conference call with India at 1:30 or 2:30 as they start their work day, or I'm getting up early. I meet with my team every single day. So every day we start the day with strategy and intention. And our meetings, even though they're every day, they're very, very quick. We are very intentional about our time together. So because we specialize in, the agility of everything that we do. Everything that we do follows an agile, pattern. So on these calls that we have every day, for everybody on my team, and everybody is expected to be on the call. I don't care who you are or what position you play or role that you play in the business. Everybody's expected to be on the call. And on that call, we are literally hitting three key areas. What did you do yesterday? What are you going to do today? And do you have any roadblocks? And we hit it every single day. And what that allows us to do is everybody on the team knows what everybody's doing. We have total transparency. And we're also there to help when roadblocks arise so that we don't have to wait until the last minute. If we have a deliverable on Friday, we know early. I don't want to wait till Thursday evening or Friday morning for you to tell me that you can't produce this deliverable. The roadblock came up days ago. So having this process kind of helps us. So I start my day there, meeting with my team. And then I'll tell you, I try to live a healthy lifestyle, and I'm trying more and more and more every single day. But I'm trying to get that time where I am, being good to Myoshia, right? And however that looks, it may be making sure that I have my coffee out on my dock. Um, and I like going out there, and it's just something about the water. So I was very intentional about the space that I'm in right now. Or, I may try to get some cardio in. Doesn't always happen. And but I try. But I'm also strategically blocking my calendar, right? So I don't waste my time. My time is very intentional, very strategic. And if it's not on my calendar, most times it's not happening. And that doesn't mean that I don't allow for what's gonna take place, but what I do not do is let other people's disasters or urgencies or fires become mine, right? So there's this unique balance there with allowing yourself to be fluid enough to meet every challenge that comes up every day, but then to also be very strategic and intentional with your time, knowing that, if I allowed all of these, outside, forces to come in and determine my day, my day will never be over. I'm trying to make sure that I'm able to start, that I'm able to stop so that I can spend time with my family, and that I'm not burning myself out. Success does not have to look like burnout at all, despite what society may say. Success does not need to look like burnout.
For sure, I agree. And like having those boundaries in place, I think that just like you said, keeps us from burning out and keeps us from being drained just by everything around us. So I totally agree with that. Um, but when you were starting AndTech Solutions, I know you had a tech company before this, but when you were starting AndTech Solutions, what felt different about this time around, and how did you know that you had the right business idea?
The difference this time around was that I knew more. It's something to be said for experience. When you have been there and done that, it allows you to operate differently, or it should. It should. Growth is being able to take what has happened and to recognize the lessons, to learn the lessons, and to move past it with diligence, right? So this time around, I just felt like there were so many things that I'm going to do differently, right? That when I first started my business, I didn't know the first thing about starting a business. I had never been to a business school. I didn't have family members who had started businesses and who could tell me, show me the ropes. I didn't have any of that. I literally stepped out on faith. Like, that's not a cliche for me. I literally stepped out there on faith. And there was so much that I didn't know. And I'll tell you, there's still so much that I do not know today. But I know better now how to recognize the gaps. And I know how to bring in resources that are smarter than me, right? I don't it doesn't have to just be my way. I am okay with hiring super smart people who are able to bring suggestions and thoughts and innovation and all of that stuff to the business. So I am not caught up in my CEO, role or anything. My staff knows that I am an all hands on deck kind of girl. I don't mind going to get coffee for my executive assistant. I don't mind um capturing data for one of my analysts. I don't mind answering support calls for my client care specialist. I don't mind, fixing a coding problem because we can't figure out, one of my developers can't figure out this error, right? So I don't mind stepping in there doing it, and everybody on my team brings that whole mentality. It's the culture that we've built here. But that's why I think this time around is better. And it's proven, the amount of time that we've been in business, the amount of revenue that we generate every year, the team that we've been able to curate, and the way we serve our clients. Everything about this time is different than the first. So I just feel like sky's the limit at this point.
Yes, ma'am. And it seems like that you're not afraid to get your hands dirty and to jump right in with your employees. And I can just imagine that that is like a morale booster for your employees and shows them, okay, if the CEO can get down here and do this with us, then I need to work 1,000 times harder.
Exactly. And I promote that, and it does great for the morale. I empower my team to own and take ownership of their area of the business. One of my business coaches, always says, I empower them to be the CEO of their desk, right? So I mean, because it makes no sense. And my boy Steve Jobs, yeah, I just, I I listen so much to the nuggets of knowledge that he left behind for us, right? But my boy Steve, and I'm always trying to act like I'm on a first name basis with people, so that's my boy. So my boy Steve says it's ridiculous for you to hire these strong, intelligent, people, and then sit there and tell them what to do, right? I'm trying to hire people that's going to come in and be like, you know what? Have you considered this? Why don't we try this? Right? And I also, Wes, I foster an environment where failure is not looked upon negatively. I encourage my team to fail. And the interesting thing is, when you foster an environment where people don't have to feel like they're going to be ridiculed for failing, that they're going to be dismissed for failing, that they're going to be chastised for failing, right? When you make people believe that they have the freedom to fail, the failures are reduced because now they feel comfortable pushing the envelope. They feel comfortable thinking outside of the box. They feel comfortable innovating because they know the only way you're going to see what's on the other side of that thought is to do it. And listen, I feel like every situation is a win or learn. There are no losses here because even if you don't win, you learn. And guess what that is? Winning. So it's a win win for us around here, literally in everything we do. And that's what helps us innovate. That's what helps us come up with solutions because we're all free and empowered to do so, and know that there's not going to be any negative repercussions. And that doesn't mean that um, we encourage um, laziness and and all of this stuff because, oh, it's okay if I fail. She gonna be cool with it, right? I believe that the environment that we're fostering here really causes my team to step up because they want to show up and they want to do better. And it's just a beautiful thing to witness every single day, and to know that failure is always going to come before success. And anytime somebody appears to be an overnight success, they had 10 years of failure that came before that, right? So that's how I kind of approach this. And it's literally why I have people who've, been on staff with me for years, because I want to create a company that people feel good to say they work for, that I want people to want to wake up and come to work every day, albeit virtual, but I want people to want to come to work every day and to do their very best every single day.
Yes, ma'am. So it seems like the team culture is great where you are. Um, is great because you created it and curated it that way. But how do you go about building a team and vetting certain members, and how do you go about understanding and knowing who to let in and who to kind of keep out of your team, and things like that?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I and I'll speak about this because I have family members that work for me. Now, I am very like, and I keep saying, and I know the audience kind of gets it now, but that there's this thing with me. Everything that I do is strategic and everything that I do is intentional. Or at least that's my expectation, right? I fall short of that, sometimes, but I have family members that work for me, and there are some family members that cannot work for me and will not work for me. I believe in giving opportunities to people because I know how it looks when you do not have the opportunities. So, first and foremost, I believe in giving people opportunity. because nobody else is going to do it for them, right? But I am also so serious about my business. And I have to make sure that people understand that this is not for play for me. This is not my side hustle. It's not my side gig. It is my livelihood, and other people depend on me for their livelihood as well. So I'm not playing any games around here. And unfortunately, there are a lot, because they know my heart and they know I want to help people. But there's some people, and this is a hard lesson for entrepreneurs to learn, is that everybody can't go. Everybody's not ready. Everybody can't handle it. So I'll say that when it comes to family, I've had some family members who, my dad worked for me. We actually just retired my dad earlier this year. So now he's able to, live the the rest of his life, and and be okay, and be okay. But my dad worked for me for years. My brothers work for me, right? But there have been some that have come and gone because they thought this was a joke, or they thought they were going to come in here and it was going to be an easy ride because, oh, she's family, right? So that's the first thing. Secondly, from a vetting perspective, I wholeheartedly trust my intuition, right? I believe that I have a spirit of discernment. So, and I pray for that daily, that God would allow me to see people for, who they are. And, as the cliche goes, when someone shows you who they are, believe it. But what she said even beyond that is not just believe it, but believe it the first time. The first time, right? So when I'm vetting people, I am very intentional about it. I'll give you a scenario. We just hired my new executive assistant, and there have been several before her. And some would say, well, if you've gone through, all of these executive assistants, who's the common denominator? You, right? But so I just hired a new executive assistant. We spent a significant amount of time on the job description. So we were very strategic and intentional, because you can't expect someone to do or to meet expectations that you haven't set. So we were very strategic about the job description. We put the job description out there, um, and we had about 51 candidates apply. And the good thing about building team is that the goal should be that you're hiring people that would shield you or be the first level of defense for you as a CEO, right? So my husband is on staff now. My husband is my COO now. And his job was to be the first level of triage, right? So he went out and he triaged these 51 candidates, because I didn't want to see them until the cream rose to the top, right? So he was responsible for triaging that list of candidates, and some of it was looking on paper, but people can put anything on paper, and that's why, and not just because I am one that did not go the traditional college route. I have not been to college. I don't necessarily look for degrees when I look for candidates, because experience is a great teacher. Experience is a great teacher. But there's a balance there. But anyway, he was the first level of triage. By the time I was brought in, we were down to 16. We went through another set of, vetting until we arrived at the top 6. And that's who we invited to interview, right? So from a vetting perspective, and from a building the team, I look at who's going to match the culture, because I will not allow toxicity to come into what we've built here. We are a very family oriented company. We are very diligent in our work. We are for real about our work, and we're doing some big stuff out there. We're doing some big stuff, and people have to fall into that culture. And if you can't fall into that culture, this is not the place for you, right? This is the no drama zone. We're that's not what we're about. We're doing big stuff over here, and all of that other foolishness. It's time out for that. It's literally time out for that. So I'm very intentional and strategic when I'm vetting people, and there is no one um, skill set that's needed. There is no one prerequisite. Um, Degrees don't necessarily matter. I do look at it because, in some regards, degrees show you the diligence of a person to stick with something for 2 or 4, whatever years. But there's so much, and this is what I think the young people need to really recognize today, that there's so many routes to get to the destination. And society will try to force one thing down your throat, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the case. And again, I'm a walking testament to that. Because when you think about technology, the first thing, people want to know is, oh my, where did you go to college? Where did you get your degree in MIS, or CIS, or whatever, right? In IT systems or whatever. And that's not my story. Now I am well educated, but I'm self educated. I'm self taught. And there's something to be said for that. So there's just a balance, but there's never a one size fits all for me. Never. It's never you have to have this and this and this, and it looks the same across the board for everybody.
So, what would you say is your favorite thing about being an entrepreneur?
Oh my goodness. The fact that I could be an encourager, that I can really encourage and equip and edify somebody else. Literally, the legacy that I'm creating is is the joy for me. The legacy, not only for my children and my children's children. So not just personally, but for everybody else out there, for anybody that can look and say, man, if she did it, it's the legacy. That's where my joy comes from, is to be able to encourage somebody else, to show them what is possible. And that's what I strive to do every single day. It, of course I'm out here, I'm trying to make money, and we're doing that, but I'm all about the legacy work and creating something that's bigger than me, that's going to be able to survive far past me. That's where my joy comes from.
That's awesome. So, what would you say is the single most important reason for your success?
Faith.
Faith.
Faith and hard work. Knowing that, actually, it still just goes back to faith. So faith is it, and knowing that faith without works is dead. Like literally knowing that you can have the faith, all the faith that you want, but if you're not willing to go out there and work for it, it's it's for naught. It really is. Nothing is going to be handed to us. Even if you happen to get an inheritance from somebody, or whatever, you still have to work, right? And I've made sure that even while I'm trying to be a great parent and all of that, one of the lessons is, first of all, this is my money, not yours, right? But
Right.
but to raise young people that have a great work ethic, that know that it takes work to get anything. I don't care if it's your relationship. Relationships take work, and don't let anybody tell you that they don't. Whether it's a marital relationship, a dating relationship, a mother and daughter relationship, a sister and sister relationship, a girlfriend relationship, a homeboy relationship, whether it is co-worker and boss, employer and employee, peer to peer, everything takes work if you want it to work. It takes work to make something work, period. And we see that in everything that we do. Life imitates that it does take work. But as long as you're willing to put in the work, as long as you're willing to get your hands dirty and get your feet dirty, as long as you're really willing to get in there and get it done, the rewards can be amazing.
And when you say faith, do you mean faith in God, faith in yourself, faith in your abilities, like faith in what?
Faith in God, faith in God, definitely. Everything that I am is because of the God I serve. Like literally, I cannot be and do who I am without without God's provision, and I stand on that every single day. God is, I am the CEO of this company, but this is, I give, listen, I give all honor and praise to God for giving me the mind to think, for giving me the voice to speak, for giving me the feet to stand and the feet to do, for giving me the hands. So everything that I do, I give honor to God and thanks to God for that, because it's proven day in and day out that my provision, everything that's provided to me, the air that I breathe, everything, the money that I earn, the lifestyle that I'm able to lead, all of that is because of God's provision. And once what once I resolved that, once I truly started building this personal relationship with God, right? It started manifesting itself in my life in some amazing ways, to where there was no doubt, right? There was no doubt. So now daily, I don't get out of the bed. I don't start my day without saying thank you. Thank you for another opportunity to get it right. Another opportunity to get it right. And then you just start your day and you go out there and you try to get it right. And when you don't, you know that God is there, being the loving God that He is, but not taking it for granted, going out there trying to get it every single day, to get it right. It's another opportunity to get it right.
Yes, ma'am. I love that. Sounded like my mama now. But but yes, ma'am. So what has been the most critical moment of your business journey? So like a fight or flight kind of moment.
Woo, oh my goodness, I'll tell you. I told this story to somebody the other day here recently. They asked me, was there a time in my business um, where racism played a part, or or whatever challenge, right? And I remember this situation quite vividly, where I submitted a proposal, right? I presented a proposal, and because of who I am and how I look, I was rejected, right? And what I did was, rather than take that and feel dejected because I was rejected, right? Rather than go into this funk and, just really go into this space of dejection, I said, you know what? I slid that same proposal over to somebody that does not look like me. And they went in and pitched my exact same proposal. And they were all over it. They gave us the contract, they did all of that. And what I did, I took that and I went back to them and I made them understand that when the presentation came from me, you were not interested. But now and literally we didn't change a word, we didn't change a letter, we didn't change anything. But now you're all for it, right? And what I had to determine at that point, and what I learned at that point, was all money ain't good money.
True.
And we were able to walk away from that contract. And it would have set us up all right. It really would have. But my integrity wouldn't allow it. My history wouldn't allow it, right? So and that was a defining moment for me. How are you going to walk in integrity? How are you going to show up every day in integrity? How are you going to teach in integrity? How are you going to lead by example from an integrity perspective? And I decided then that my integrity was more important. But I also hoped that it was an educational moment for them, that you need to squash that foolishness, like for real. So yeah.
And that kind of reminds me of a quote that I heard, and it went something like, "Your character is defined by the things that you turn down." So, like, by the things that you walk away from. So, I think that says a lot about your character and your personality, and your mindset. To, like, even though it was a big bag, even though it was a lot of money, it just didn't sit right with your gut, with your spirit, with your intuition. So, I think that says a lot.
Yeah, it definitely. And it really helps me. It really creates this freedom to know that I've arrived at a point, and it wasn't always like this, because there were some times when um my flesh would have kind of threw that in my face, like, girl, see, you should have just, what you should have done,
Right.
right?
Right.
But it feels so good, and there is this amazing sense of freedom when you get to choose who you work with and do business with. I get to choose. I get to choose. And I am not in a posture of desperation. So I don't have to accept whatever is thrown at me, right? That I get to choose. I have that freedom. And and we still eat, and we still eat. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing to be in this space right now. It feels really, really good.
That's awesome. And I heard you mention Steve Jobs earlier. So who do you look up to for inspiration, and why?
So de- definitely, definitely God. But let me tell you, some of the people that I just really I really look to now, for different reasons, for different reasons. But Oprah is my girl. Now I'll tell you, I got a chance to meet her once, but I used to always say, even when I first became an entrepreneur or whatever, I would say, I will know I have arrived when I'm sitting on the stage, with Oprah, right? So she is just she's just my girl. And she is, because of the story behind the woman. Not everything that you see today, even though she's friggin' amazing, right? But it's the story that comes from that, and the fact that people told her no, and people tried to shut her up, and people tried to keep her down, and she just kept rising. So she's number one. From a business perspective, and not the man, but the business. Um, my boy Bezos, let me tell you, this boy Jeff, this whole and again, not the man. I actually don't know a lot about him personally, but from a business perspective, that's Amazon is a think outside the box model. Amazon is to figure out what the need is and meet it. And companies that were able to do that, especially this year was full of lessons. It was full of losses, but it was full of lessons for people. And those who learned the lessons survived. And unfortunately, those who didn't, you know, it is a sad thing to know that when you look at the numbers, there are a lot of Black and brown businesses that are not going to be able to bounce back from this. And I personally am committed to helping as many as I can, right? Because for us, we were able to shift when we needed to, right? Not pivot. It, pivot is a buzzword now. Everybody's using it, and all of that. But see, the smart people, or I'm not going to even say smart people because that's not true. The resilient people were the ones that were able to take everything about this and shift a little bit. It's really like, the matrix, like all you doing is bobbing and weaving, so that you don't get knocked the hell down, right?
Right.
So being able to make that shift and say that, listen, this is what it is at this point. What is needed? And then to meet the need. That's what successful businesses do. Successful businesses know that this too shall pass. They also know how to capitalize on opportunities. But successful businesses know how to listen to the clients, listen to the public, listen to the people. What do they need? And how are you going to fill that gap? And that's why I say that whole Amazon model, because listen, y'all need this. Okay, Amazon has a new division now. Y'all need this. Guess what? Amazon has a new division now. Right? So from that perspective, but then there are also a lot of smaller people that don't have the notoriety that I look up to so very much. There are some sisters and brothers out here that are killing it in the entrepreneurial space. And I love it. I love seeing it. I love being surrounded by it. I love it. I love it. So there are a lot of people that are sources of inspiration to me. Anybody who's out there getting it and grinding and all of that, I'm a fan of. Like I'm truly a fan of. And when we come together, oh my goodness, the amazing force that is. So yeah, it's a lot of people, big and small, because it literally takes all of us. It takes all of us to make this thing work. And one of my goals is to make sure that more people have a seat at the table. Because what I'm going to do is when I get to the table, I'm clearing some space and I'm bringing some folding chairs with me. Right? So even if you're not necessarily here at the table, we got some folding chairs right here. I'm at least allow you to hear what you need to hear, see what you need to see, right? So I'm all about creating those opportunities for young men and women to be able to dream big so that they can do big.
And you may have just answered my next question, but I have to ask it anyway. How would you like for people to remember you and your company?
That she did it in spite of and despite of, period. Or like the people say that, period.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, it's it that she did it in spite of everything, despite of everything. She did it. She literally did it. So yeah, that's what I want for my children and for their children, but for everybody out there to just see that it's possible. It's not going to be easy. Nobody said it was going to be easy, but it's possible. And if you're willing, all it takes is for you to be willing. If you're willing, all you have to do is take that first step, and there are going to be people behind you that are going to be pushing you along. Now you have to be mindful, because there's some that are pushing you along, but there's some that's trying to push you out the way. There's some that's trying to pull you back. You have to keep going. You have to keep going, because you're gonna have the haters. But Cat Williams told us you need about 4 or 5 haters to keep you on your game. So take that with a grain of salt. Take it with a grain of salt, and just keep doing you. Keep pushing forward. Keep taking the steps, even when it seems like every time you take one, you have to take two backwards, right? Even in those situations, all you have to do is just learn how to take quicker steps. So even those 2 steps back don't even equal that big old step you just made, right? So you just have to think. You just have to think about ways to step differently, and all that is dancing. You just have to figure out how to do it differently, and do it so smooth that people have no choice but to sit in awe and wonder, right? So yeah, that's, oh my goodness. I Look, that was a whole word for me. I think I was preaching to myself.
Yes, ma'am. It's definitely been a word today. So, look, what does the future of AndTech Solutions look like?
Oh wow. Um, all I see is bigness. Um, because we because we doing it bigly over here. But so I would say what the future of Antec. I would definitely say we have some very specific and intentional goals for 2021. That are going to start off with we're actually doing a launch on December 14th. I'm going to do a master class inside of my Facebook group, because I really want to help businesses set themselves up for success. And with the way the world is and commerce is and all of that now, companies need technology to be able to do better. So we're going to have this master class in our Facebook group on December 14th. But all that's doing is setting me up for next year. So next year, my goals, right now we are a $2.2 million company. My goal is to 10x that. I want to hit and maybe 5x, right? But I'm shooting for 10x, because listen, you go big or you go home, like for real.
Exactly.
So I really want to reach 10 million in revenue next year. That's going to mean that we're going to need systems, we're going to need people. So I'm looking to double the size of my staff, very intentionally and strategically double the size of my staff, and to serve more people. So our clients are going to grow. The number of projects that we engage on will grow, and then to develop some very strategic partnerships with others, because I do believe in collaboration. I do believe that we cannot do this alone. Collaboration, there is truly power in numbers, like for real. So that is what's next on the horizon for Antec for 2021, from an immediate perspective. And then beyond that is just continued growth, continued growth. So yeah.
That's awesome. I'm excited to hear about your goals, and I'm excited to follow your journey and watch you reach your goals, because I know it'll definitely happen. Miss Myoshia, thank you for your time today. And before we end every podcast episode, we do like to play a rapid fire question round at the end, if that's okay.
All right, let me get ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. Let's
Yes,
do it.
ma'am. So, question number one: where's your favorite place to travel?
Oh my goodness. It would have to be so Egypt. My favorite place that I've been is Egypt. I will say that the answer to that would have to probably be Jamaica now. I am married to a Jamaican, and Jamaica seems like my second home now.
Nice. Okay. Question number two: what song explains your life the most?
um, Work It, Mary J. Blige.
Okay, I ain't mad
Work
at
that,
you.
work that, work that. And what's interesting is apparently it's Kamala's song too, since she walked out to. But work that. I actually did. I did a paper on that song, and I've used it in a couple of speeches that I've done in the past. But Mary hit it with that one, because listen, they're gonna talk about you regardless. They're gonna talk about you regardless. All you have to do is do you. I love that song. And that's it for me. That speaks everything about me.
I like that. So, question number 3, and the final question: what's an amazing thing that you did that no one was around to see?
Okay, so that would have to be. Okay, it actually just happened, maybe about a year or so ago. But I was literally able to help a young lady completely in Spanish. Like, I was able to really flex my Spanish skills, and really have a full conversation that ended successfully. I was able to deliver a solution, and I was able to do it completely in Spanish.
Oh man, that's awesome. So, Miss Myoshia, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been like one of my favorite interviews, hands down.
Thank,
Um,
thank you. It was good for me too. This was a good time. I enjoyed this time with you.
yes, ma'am, that's awesome. Thank you so much, and have a great day.
All right, you take care.